Hi everyone, and welcome to SharePoint Power Hour. This is a weekly show that we do here live on YouTube, streaming as a Google Hangout. And SharePoint Power Hour is basically, I'm Laura Rogers, and this is my team at Rackspace Hosting, and we do just demos on all kinds of things that you can do in SharePoint. So we have we don't delve into custom code or super detailed server admin type of things, but it's mostly things that exist in SharePoint that are out of the box that more business user type people can do. So what we've been doing is a series on forms because since I wrote an InfoPath book a couple of years ago, people have been specifically asking me, now that InfoPath's going away, what are we supposed to do now? I get a lot of people asking me that. So what we're doing this series is just demoing some different form products. So we spent the past 2 power hours demoing InfoPath. So InfoPath's still there. It's still in SharePoint. You can still create form library forms and customize list forms and all that. But people want to be able to customize forms, and they want to know kind of what other directions they could go besides using InfoPath. So this in this demo, we're going to do what's called K2. K2 is a workflow product that's been around for years and years, but they have an app specifically for the SharePoint App Store called K2 Appit, which is workflows and forms that you can use in Office 365 or and just put in the App Store or on premises. And then next week we'll do Nintex forms, and then we could take suggestions, and we'll do other form products. And we're going to be kind of comparing them as we go, and just talking about things that we are discovering along the way. And you guys, my colleagues in the chat room, feel free to chime in or ask questions kind of as I go, and help me kind of review these as we go, because some of the things that we're looking at when we're looking at form products are functionality. What does it let you do? But there are a lot of new people in SharePoint and Office 365, because Office 365 is just getting hundreds and thousands of probably new customers every day, and so all these people are brand new to these products. So for those complete newbies and just business users that have no kind of programming experience or any kind of experience with products like this, how is this going to work for them, and is it going to be easy for them to pick up and easy for them to quickly customize forms and understand the interface and understand how to do things? So thinking about having a lot of cool functionality and being able to do stuff, but also thinking about just being able to pick it up and just run with it and start customizing things without getting overwhelmed or lost or not understand the product. So with those things in mind, you guys feel free to chime in as we go. And you guys that are watching, if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually flip over to the Google Hangout. There's a little icon on the YouTube video you're watching that will let you take you over to the Google Hangout. And in there's a Q&A. So I'd like you guys to use that to give us feedback as we go, make comments, ask questions. So if you're looking at us in the Google Hangout, there's a little panel on the right side, and it's got a little sort of icon towards your top right that looks like a little grid, like several squares, and that lets you flip between apps. So one of the apps in there is just an app that we use to share hyperlinks, but the other one is the Q&A. So if you guys could open up the Q&A panel, and that's how you get in there to ask us questions as we're going. And again, I'm Laura Rogers, Rackspace Hosting, and this is my team, so I'll have everybody go through and introduce yourselves. And the order you guys are in my little window down there is Kevin, then Ryan, then Joelle, and Stephen, then Tavis. So y'all just go down the row and introduce yourselves. All right, Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Hughes, SharePoint Architect on Laura's team, based out of Kansas City. My role is to gather requirements for our clients that have some issues or problems or upgrades they want to do, figure out the best way to solve those problems or fix their issues, and then help everybody make it happen, make it so.
All right, Ryan.
Hi, I'm Ryan Keller. I'm based out of Colorado. My role on the team is the branding guy. Let's see, 2015 marks my, I think, 8th year of working with SharePoint now, and I think the 4th year of doing branding exclusively. So fun times. Maybe we'll do some more branding-related power hours in the future, so hopefully be on the lookout for those.
Hello, I am Joelle Farley. I am a consultant on Laura's team, and I am based out of Atlanta, Georgia. I mainly work with a lot of the out-of-the-box features, so things like forms and workflows. I also help do a lot of planning and design for our clients. And as somebody who has worked with InfoPath for many, many years, I'm excited to see some of these form options, as I'm sure a lot of you out there are as well.
Stephen.
Sorry, it's in a different order on mine. I'm Stephen Wilson, and I am a SharePoint engineer. I do a lot of our infrastructure stuff, helping customers install, patch, do things with the back end of SharePoint. And then I also assist with the early use of SharePoint, getting things set up, helping you make sense of what you're going to do with SharePoint once you get it all up and running, and the initial layout of the sites and things like that.
My name is Tavis Lovell, and I am the business intelligence developer on the business solutions team. So I deal with all things business intelligence related and try to turn your data into information. So things like reporting services and Performance Point and Power Pivot and all those good reporting toys, as I like to think of them.
All right. Okay. Thanks, everybody. And Tavis, if you guys heard if you saw the trailer that we had on our Google, before you watched the show, that Tavis is the one who did the music on our little sort of intro music thing. So that was fun. We never did figure out, Google Hangouts and YouTube wouldn't ever let us play it like at the beginning as we start the show. We can never get it to do that, but it shows us the trailer. We have it in there. Okay. So K2. All right, so what I'm going to do is a couple of different things. The people at K2, so the website is appit.com, or you can go to K2 and get there. APPIT is, let's see, let me double check that, so I don't want to say it wrong. And what I did was I requested a trial of it's appit.com. I requested a trial of it, and then the nice people at K2 reached out to me, and we actually had a meeting together, and they helped me get it all set up. So they sent me the app to put in my app store. They talked me through putting it in the app store. We did some screen sharing. They talked me through. We went ahead and created a new site collection to do all this testing in. We added the app to the site collection. They showed me around. It was really nice. They showed me around all the little links in the app, how to get help, how to go look at forums, how they have tons of tutorials out there. So K2 is really good about putting together a bunch of help and a bunch of information for you to be able to get up and running. So, of course, I picked the hardest tutorial to go through. I scrolled all the way to the bottom and found the hardest tutorial that's like a 2-hour or 3-hour tutorial. And I started going through that one, and I'm almost finished with it. I was hoping to finish it before today. I had like 3 more steps or something to go. But so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to start by just creating a regular old SharePoint list and just clicking to customize that list form, just some basic stuff, and just kind of looking around in the interface and seeing kind of what is where and how things work, and showing you kind of how to get around in there and how to do things. And then I'll see if I can get this, the demo that I went through, and get it up and working. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Move this over here. I like a demo where I don't have to have my VMs running. That's nice. Okay, so now you're looking at a blank screen basically. So what I have is this is their little tutorial thing that I've been working on. It's like it's again, I picked the longest, most complicated one, but they have, and I just lost my place by doing that, by the way. And they have a whole bunch of different tutorials like Hello World and things like that just to get you up and running. And then the expense claim is the complicated one that I started going through. So
I think we lost your screen share, Laura.
What?
I think we lost the screen share.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. I think when I minimize stuff, it does that. Thanks for letting me know. Let me see.
I still see it.
You still see it? Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm seeing it again. Could just be me.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm going to just create a new list, and I'm going to, just go add an app here. And this is my Office 365 site, laurarogers.sharepoint.com. And I'm just going to create a task list real quick. No, I'm not going to create a task list. I'm going to create something else. I'm going to create like an announcement list or something. Just go find it. So many apps now that I always have to type the name of it to go find it. Announcements. That way I'll just have just a couple of fields in there, and I'll be able to just have something in there to get up and running real quick. Okay, so now I have an announcements list. So now that I have this K2 app I'll show you kind of where it is real quick. Now that I have it, I'm going to be able to, since I have K2 in here, I'm going to be able to just go to my ribbon, and in the list ribbon, this is where I can quickly go customize that form. But also when I go to site contents, I can see that I installed K2 Appit here. So they're really smart here, and the fact that they made it really useful and helpful when you just go click the name of that app. They have put all the help information right here to go learn and get help and all that. So it's really nice. So let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my list and my little announcements list that I just created, and I'm going to show you just as a quick overview this is what the default form looks like. Because this is what we're demoing is forms. This is what just the SharePoint default form looks like. This is a blah blah blah. Okay. So I've just created one item in my list, and of course this is what the default form looks like when you're looking at that announcement when you open it up. So I'll go to I'm going to K2 now. I'm going to click application here. So K2 has, and also Nintex, they both have forms and workflows, but I'm just demoing, this is a forms comparison demo, so I'm really going to try to just stick to just the forms part and not delve into the workflow yet. Maybe we'll have a different, compare workflows at some point, but I'm not going to do workflows in this demo. I'm just going to do create smart forms. This little thing, this smart object thing, is you automatically get what's called a smart object in K2, and I'm just going to real quick show you what that means. This means that this list of stuff, this SharePoint, this data in this announcements list, I'm creating what's called a smart object, so it becomes a smart object. So by default, just in SharePoint by default, your lists and libraries are all available within that same, whatever site you're in. Like when you're creating workflows and doing lookups and things like that, it's all across the same site. So by default, it's going to be used, workflows for this list and library. But what you can do is you can say, let this list of announcements be available to be used within this site and all of its subsites. So that means just that alone, I haven't even customized anything or done any forms or workflows, but just that alone is letting me take this list of stuff, whatever it is, and have it available to be part of workflows and things in other sites. So this site and all of its subsites. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose forms and click OK. And smart objects is a concept in K2 that there's a lot to K2. Again, it's a forms product that's been around for years and years. Could be, I think maybe even something like 10 years. But because it was around before SharePoint even came along, because companies need workflows. I mean, workflows are part of everyday processes. So K2 has been a product since before SharePoint came along, where you can do workflows between your different business applications and things like that to have them interact with each other. So a smart object is something is a terminology that K2 uses, and that a smart object could be a SharePoint list. A smart object could be a table in some SQL database. somewhere. A smart object could be like your Active Directory. Tap into the people and all the information in Active Directory, and so all your different line of business systems can be smart objects, and and use those across each other. So you got to think. You can think really broadly with K2 because there are a bajillion things that you can do, but the cool thing about K2 is that it seems like it's limitless as to what you can configure it to do, and like just out of the box without having to know code the solutions you can build in it. But there is a little bit of complexity, so that's one of the things so when we talk about our pros and cons, that's one of the things we're going to discuss. All right, so I have once I went in there and decided to. I clicked the K2 application. I decided to create a form. So this is what it takes me to. So it's got display, edit, and new my views, and display, edit, and new forms. I'm going to go ahead and say I want to edit the new form. Just like in everything in SharePoint, whenever you're dealing with forms, you have you're always going to have the 3 different forms involved in just SharePoint lists and everything. You have the display form, which is what people are looking at when they open an item to look at it. Edit form when they're editing an existing item, and the new form is for creating a new one. So we'll just go say we're going to go edit the new announcement. If I directly try to edit this form, it's going to tell me I need to check it out first. So I know, and it doesn't look like I can right-click on these because it isn't very obvious that there's a menu on them. But if I right-click, I can check it out. And so that helps you to have like your change control in progress. So, and then I can edit it. So this takes me to their whole K2 designer right here in the browser. So if any of you out there have experience with K2 before, this was separate software that you had to have in the past. And this is all built in. This all works in the browser now. I'm not sure as to how recently they put this in the browser, but the last time I used K2 was at a company I worked for. This was like 6 years ago, and so I had that was my K2 experience, was trying it out and having that software to install. All right, so what I'm doing in this demo is based on the experience I have just in the past day or so, going through some of their tutorials in my little demo environment. So again, you guys ask questions as we go, and you guys, my colleagues especially, kind of ask questions and point out things that might be confusing, or might be it might be kind of hard to do, or might be very cool. So kind of help me look at those. All right, so it looks like I have this. This is my little design surface here, and so it looks like I can click on. So I clicked on just the whole layout of this form, and I clicked to, and I kind of have a properties thing, it looks like, over here, and I have some views, and I have controls. So let's see, it looks like, from what I can tell in here, this little web part and this little web part, these are what are called views. This is what K2 refers to as views. So if I try and edit, see it says view, edit. So I want to edit this view. So that was the difference when I was looking at the screen before in the browser where it said edit the form or edit the view. That would be the view, is the actual kind of body of that part of the form, as opposed to like if you had multiple web parts, like had related items or something like that, those would be separate views on your form, right? All right, so kind of different than InfoPath terminology, where a view is an entire different screen that you can configure, kind of starting from scratch. And here, views are really just sort of sections on a screen, it appears. Again, I'm just learning this as I go. So, all right, so let's see what happens when I click to, so I didn't check out the view, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes. So remember, I checked out the form, but I didn't check out the view. So I went ahead and said yes, I'll check out the view. So it looks like I can click on a control in here. So this is a text box. Here are my fields. So just like in InfoPath and even Access, you have all your fields showing down the right side of the screen that you can drag onto the form. It's onto the little design surface here. And I also have methods, and then I have controls. So controls are going to be like if you have text is what the value, like the kind of value that is stored in a specific field, you might want to show that in a text box, which is one type of control, or you might want to show it in a drop-down box, which is another type of control. So controls are a little bit different than fields, because fields are, that's where your data is stored, and controls are kind of how you interact with it. It also looks like down here I have this properties stuff. So these are the properties. This is, I have a text box selected, so these are some of the properties of my text box. I can determine the width. I can say, like, give it a tooltip or a watermark. I can even mark it as read-only, and I can do expressions in here. It's like a regular expression. So in here I can drill down and say, well, what do I want my regular expression to be? Well, I need it to be formatted like this or that, and I have little kind of all this different stuff that it provides me to be able to create expressions. So one of the things that I've noticed about K2 is it gives you a bajillion options for everything, and there are so many different just things that you can do everywhere, but there is a bit of a learning curve to be able to kind of understand your way around it, especially when you start drilling down like I did and trying to figure out kind of what all that is and what does what. So I have styles here, and my style, so that looks pretty straightforward. So I can go change the style of this text box that I have selected. So I can go change my font. Can make it bold, give it a different color. So there's some rack space red there, and alignment, and give it some effects. So now I'm making the title of my announcement, when they create a new announcement, I'm making that a little bit prettier. I've got, for validation, I've got a pattern here. So look at that. So that's going to be, so when I was thinking expression, when I clicked expressions, this is what I was thinking of, like regular expressions. But I had to click pattern to get to kind of what I was picturing there. So pattern is going to be if you want to have a specific box formatted a certain way when people are typing information in it. Like if you have just a text box in your SharePoint list and you want people to have to type a phone number in it, then that's what you can pick as your pattern, your validation pattern. All right, and then message, and then also, so every different control in here has a rules tab. It's a little hidden, it's way down here. So if I pick a specific control like a button or a text box or something, I can add rules to make that do something. So I'm going to go into the rules in a minute though, so because that's a little bit more advanced. Let's see, so my whole form, let's see, can I select the whole table maybe? Let's see, I can create a layout. Oops, no, I didn't mean to do that. Create labels and controls. Let's just kind of go over some of what this stuff is. This is create labels and controls. So when I click this, it says basically I can create, I can pick some fields that exist in my list or library, and I can add them in like another, it's going to add them in another table to this form that I'm looking at. So all these different things could be buttons on my form, and I could just make them all just get dumped onto here if I wanted to, and say where I wanted it to show. That's pretty interesting. And then,
so are the methods, are they part of the workflow? Because a lot of those actions look like they were like workflow actions.
It looks like, so all I've delved into so far is the form, but it looks like they have a lot of workflow and form stuff tied together. Yeah. So like when I go to rules, it actually looks like I'm creating a workflow. So as opposed to InfoPath, where it's got its own little rule designer, yeah, and it looks, and it's, you know, it's very specific to InfoPath. The rules, I believe, look more like a workflow looks, like events, conditions, and actions, than kind of the more finite set of things you get in InfoPath. So, but I don't know about as far as methods. Like if I drag one of those to the form, so it just basically just stuck a button on my form that says create list items. So if I drag that on here, you can see that it automatically has a rule now that when I click this button, it creates a new list item. So, don't get the rules on the form confused with this other rules thing. So let's kind of go. That they have this sort of order of things that they have you going through. Like it introduces you to what a view is here, and it describes what it is, and then it goes through. So here's some general information about your rule. It's an item view. About your view that you're looking at. A list view, it would be like a form that you're filling out where you're filling out multiple things at the same time, like a data sheet view. So you can switch between those if you want it. You could create a new view that would be one of these. So this is just an individual item view, just the new announcement view. And then layout is where you go in here, and this is the screen I was on. And then parameters is, it looks like it's got some built-in parameters. This is definitely much more advanced. So you guys, what kind of solutions would you building? What would you be building like with a new announcement where you would need to do something with parameters? Like pass a query string to it and say like have some kind of custom form like in a web part on a page and have a
maybe if you had like announcements for multiple different departments or divisions, and you wanted to have a filter on the page that passed to like your announcement. I don't know.
Yeah. So a parameter is one of those things that in the past we've been able to use data view web parts in SharePoint Designer or form library forms in InfoPath to create parameters. That's definitely a much more advanced functionality. But in here, again, now SharePoint Designer doesn't do that anymore. Well, it does it, but you don't have a design view, so you can't actually get to that screen anymore. And InfoPath is going away. So parameters is one of those advanced functionalities that we need a lot of times with custom business solutions, and this is where they have it in, right here in K2 in the little parameters tab. So the rules tab up here is going to be, these are if you've used InfoPath before, the rules are going to be similar to like the form load rules. These are rules that apply to the entire form more, from what I can tell, as opposed to a specific control, I think. Or this might just be a list of all the rules in the entire form. We'll test that out and see, because it looks like it's got this one's specific to the save button. So, and then finished is just basically when you're finished editing this this view, then that will take you back to your list of all of your different K2 things that you can edit, and just back to SharePoint. So I can pick any rule in here and edit the rule. So let's go back to the layout though, because I want to kind of delve into some of this stuff. Now, I created this row when I was just playing around accidentally, and I dropped this button on it. So it looks like I can hover over each of these. I can see I have a remove row. So I was able to do it that way. You can't really select, like I can't just drag my cursor and like hold it down and select multiple cells, because if I have to select them individually. But then if I want to like merge something, it just says merge cell to the right. So that would kind of select it for me and merge them together. So it's kind of awkward the way you have to merge. I don't see an undo button. Like I just did that, and I would want to maybe undo what I just did. I don't think any of these buttons, this is just inserting rows and things like that, clearing things. There's nothing apparent to me that would be an undo, unless you just click cancel and just canceled all of your changes. So that I could see that being a little frustrating, because I had one or two things in here that I had done in here that I just wanted to quickly go undo what I had done. Again, there might be an undo somewhere in here, but it's not in an obvious place. So that's kind of one of the things that we're looking at.
To select multiple like areas, could you Control or Shift click on them?
That's a good question. So let me see. No.
Still doesn't work.
Tried that. No.
And I guess Control Z wouldn't work either because it's on the browser for undo.
Yeah, I tried Shift arrow over, and I tried holding the Control key down. It doesn't let you do that. So it's a little funky. And then I've got, so a lot of the times what people want to do in here is just format it to give it their company colors and things like that. So that would be a case where you would go in here and go to, like, I have a cell selected. So how would I make that cell? So I figured out how to make a text box have a certain color. So I went in there and clicked on the style for the text box. But what about just a cell? So let me see. Go to Properties, Rules, because that's one of the common things that people do. I see people doing customizing forms with InfoPath and the only thing they need to do is just make it have certain colors or look, have their company branding. So I think that's a little strange that you don't have the ability to change the colors of the cells. That's interesting. So, like, let me click on title here. That's a label. So I can go to my label and say maybe borders, color width, box. Okay. See, it put a border around the word itself. Interesting. Yeah. So, maybe that's one of those things that it's just like a browser limitation to where it just wasn't possible. And also, just like in Access, so Tavis, you might have noticed this too, like in the new version of Access, they just don't let you edit the colors at all. It's just white. And like you can do some conditional formatting and stuff like change the text a little here and there, but there isn't any way to change the background color. So maybe they just kind of got the same, the same thing going here to where there just isn't a way to customize the color of the form.
It's probably for the best, for the good of mankind.
Yes, I know. Like, some of the ugly things that people do with forms. And then there are some other kind of, like I could click on a control, and if I want to change that to be a different type of control, I can click Change Control. So instead of that being free-form text, if I want that to be a drop-down, I can do that. So I can make this a drop-down, and even though it isn't a drop-down like in the SharePoint list, I can make it be a drop-down in the form. And you can do the same thing in InfoPath as well. And I can make these be a lookup, save as PDF. Interesting. Let's see. Carlos says, does K2 help with parent-child relationships on forms? Yes. So let me show you that, Carlos. I'm going to go ahead and finish out of this demo. And since we've got about like 25 minutes left, I want to go ahead and show you that more advanced demo that I started going through. So I'll go back to, I'm going to try and see if I can show you what it does so far to see if I've only got like 3 or 4 steps left in my tutorial to be finished. So I'm going to go ahead and go back here and back to my site and see if it's functional enough just to show you what it does. So it's an expense claim, and I've customized several different forms in here, and I've done a parent-child relationship. So cool thing about this expense claim is part of the tutorial is highlighting, all the cool things K2 can do. So the expense claim, it's like a master and child relationship with the expense claim itself and all the expense details. I know some of you might have had, I know we have a lot of clients wanting to do that in SharePoint. Some of you might have had to build that in SharePoint before. I know I have. So what they're doing is very cool here. The detail items in this expense claim are actually in a SQL database. So you're creating this table in a SQL database as a smart object. And it's really neat because in their demo they let you tap into just like an example database they have out in the cloud that you can just use for testing their stuff like this. And to be able to build this solution. So I tapped into their database, their SQL database. I got this, I have a smart object at, this table with expense details. And so the way you build this solution is you have expense claim as a SharePoint list, but all the detail information is, and like lookups, like currency lookups and stuff is all in a separate table. So, but the cool thing about the expense claim and doing that part in SharePoint is there's going to be a whole approval process around it. And so I've been building the forms and haven't even gotten that much into what the workflow is going to be for the approvals. But
I have a question.
Yes.
So the details, are they a SharePoint, their own SharePoint list, and they're just pointing to them?
The detail is totally a SQL table. It doesn't exist as a SharePoint list.
So
it is a smart object.
Have you seen it just going through the demo yet? Because I know you're not like the the K2 person, but just curious. Have you seen like how they create, like how it gets created initially?
Yeah, the demo has you do that.
Okay.
So it actually they give me the URL to their database and the name of their database and all this stuff to tap into their demo database. It's a real SQL database. So
to create your table.
Yeah. To create my smart.
Okay.
Yes.
So then an end user would have to have that information for their own, and have a database to put that in. Okay.
And the kind of person that's going to be building a solution like this is not going to be an end user.
Well, yeah. Well, power user. Yeah. I mean, you know how it is, though. Some power users can't even use SharePoint Designer. So
yeah.
Are they going to have the database information? That's another thing.
Whole lots of different levels of people that are trying to do this. So what I just demoed is going to be kind of just more of a business user kind of / power user maybe, and just wanting to customize a couple of things in their form, like the way things look and the way like maybe a button does a certain thing or is a certain color. And this is going to be like you have to have, you have to basically get trained on this and understand a whole bunch more to be able to build a solution like this. But it's very, very cool to be able to build a solution like this with no code and just be able to drag and drop and create rules. Just, yeah, it's really neat. So I'm going to create a new expense claim. So Laura, test. And we'll see if it works. I was trying to do the little logic in here that they gave me in the demo to make this default to me in the requester box, but I didn't get that to work. I was going to go back and ask somebody, because they told me to ask them about any questions that I had, that they'd help me. Like, they were very, very friendly. So I just did the people picker to find me, and I'm just going to put, let's put you in there, Joelle. See if you're, I don't think you've ever been to this site collection, so it's not going to, let's see, whatever. Just put me in there. Because this is in my Office 365 environment, but I know I have created a couple of you accounts in here, so I was just going to see if I could add you. All right, this is a test. Now let's see what happens if I try to submit this with nothing in it. Let's see. Nothing. Okay. Again, I didn't finish doing some of these rules, so let me go ahead and start adding stuff. So this is a form that I customized right here. This is the little child form. So this is the category. All these categories were already in their database. So pay, date, I don't know. Description, test. This is cool. Watch this. So I'll put $100 in currency code. So if I put US dollars, it's just going to equal to $100. But if I put like euros, look at that, it converts it for me. So part of the demo was actually building out the conversion process and building the logic on these little boxes here. So again, that's why it took me so long. It's been hours. All right, and then this is where somebody can attach a receipt to this line item. So save. All right, so now I've got one line item in here, and look, it's putting the total up here in my master record. That was more logic that I added so that when someone clicks save, it sends that information to that text box. I'll go ahead and add another item real quick. Blah, 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 yeah, okay, value, US dollars, and save. Okay, and so now this amount got updated. Let's see if it lets me submit it. Are you sure you want to submit this expense claim for approval? Now, this is something that I built also. This is logic, part of the rules that let you create a little pop-up box for people to go ahead and submit their things. And then this is the other one was a message box. This is actually a more detailed type of message box. It says success, and it tells me details about the thing that so this is like the ID, the unique ID of it is 1. All right, so now, and then I made it so that it closes that form, and now I can see my item in my SharePoint list, and let's go when I display it, when I'm looking at it. So this is my display form. So now I'm looking, so this is a part, I don't think I finished this part, because now I don't see like my my stuff down here. displaying in there. So either I didn't finish it or I did something wrong, but when I was doing the display form. And then I've got the edit form. Let's go edit this item. And again, edit form is a completely separate form. So this is where so part of the process is going to be for different people to be approving it and adding comments. So part of what I was doing was having separate, it's got separate buttons that you can't see here that are going to be like the first approver has a button, has the ability to go make a comment and then click their button, and then it would go to finance and they would make their comment and click their button. But all those buttons are hidden right now, but that's kind of what the process is supposed to be through here. So all this stuff, this is very exciting to me because all these type of things that I have always done in InfoPath, like that's my thing. Like I love going into InfoPath and building out approval processes. You make it so the form that the first person sees is the new form is different than what the approvers see, which they're going to have the ability to do approvals and make comments and things like that. And then it goes, through the process. So it was very exciting to me to see something very similar. I'm not seeing the details here that I had added, but I just don't think that I added that logic in yet to go, query that information when as soon as I load the form. But
Did you see anything obvious in this that you can't, or that can be done in InfoPath that can't be done here?
The colors stuff and the being able to easily select the table cells and drag, for your just working in the table, being able to select things like that. InfoPath has a little bit more simplicity than K2, but that's kind of a double-edged sword because it's got simplicity, but it's got things that you can't do because of the simplicity. But then K2 has a lot of really cool, all kinds of stuff that you can do, but it's more of a learning curve because it gives you just so many options you don't necessarily know how to, it's not as obvious how to do stuff. So let's go ahead and edit this. So I can go hit application here like this, or I can go into my site contents and I can go to my Appit, my little Appit thing here.
One more question, Laura, sorry.
Okay.
So it looks like you have to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like you have to change the edit display, the different forms. You have to actually go in and change each one. Is that right?
Yes.
So because with InfoPath, you don't technically have to do that. It just it will kind of do it for you, create those forms and change those forms for you. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that's what I was seeing, that we weren't just doing something differently.
Yeah, you're right. So I click K2 Management. So here's where it gives me all my stuff I've been working on. Oh wait, I don't think I went to the right place. Hold on. Let me just go back to my list. Okay, so I'll go back to my expense claim list and just go to the ribbon up here and click Application. And then K2 has all the reports too that I haven't even delved into, which gives you reports on just activity, like how people are using the workflows, the form, whatever they're doing. So there's all kinds of reporting capability as well. So I have edit expense claim checked out. So I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to kind of show you some of I'm going to try and pick up on the tutorial where I left off to see if I can finish it, but I'm going to show you around in some of the things that I've been doing as I go, because it's going to be kind of a whole other level of just some of the basic stuff I was showing you a minute ago. All right, so I have my little tutorial I was going through, and I have all right.
Navigation on the left-hand side. That looks that looks pretty interesting because it's looking at SQL Server Service and Active Directory. Is that just so it's probably easier for some customization with those kind of things? I'm assuming.
Yeah,
linking
you
to them.
can see that. See, the announcements list is one that I had made a smart object out of it and customized it with K2. So that's actually I could actually drag this announcements list onto this view here and have it be part of the the form that people are looking at and do a filter or something. you can see I still have new announcement checked out. I didn't check it in when I was finished with it, so I could check it in there. So it shows me all the stuff that I'm doing in here. Azure Active Directory, that's where they had me create. I have the smart objects that for the expense claim sub items in here. God, the tutorial was very extensive, but some of the stuff they have a whole bunch of videos too, like I'll show you here. So they have a whole bunch of videos explaining the whole process to me and what it does and how it works. I didn't watch those. So in parts of the instructions that I was going through and might have been confused about what something was or why I was doing something, there were some things I was confused about because I just didn't take the time to watch the videos that explained to me. Isn't that typical? So, all right. So what I've been doing is I've been doing a lot of stuff in the rules here. So when I let me kind of show you what some of these rules are. So when I click resubmit claim, so if somebody's editing a claim and they need to resubmit it, this is the button that they're going to click. But when I go to rules here, this is where when button resubmit claim is clicked. So this is how I can go edit that rule. So rules in here, again, it's like a workflow. You've got events, conditions, and actions. So there are a bajillion, 100,000 things in here. Look at this. I'm exaggerating, but there are a lot of things that you can do in here. So that's kind of one of the reasons I say that it's sort of a learning curve, because you have to know what it means. You know, what am I doing when a control on a subview contains a value? What does that even mean? So there are a million things you can do, but here's where I can search for something. So a few minutes ago, as I was trying to finish this demo up and I was scanning through here looking for something, I could have just typed the name of it and found it. So there's my answer to that. But again, so there are a lot of different actions, events, conditions, and actions, a lot more. So SharePoint has a lot of actions, but it doesn't have, events doesn't even exist as a concept. That's really just like either on start or on create or on change or manually. I guess those would be likened to the events. And then conditions, SharePoint has a handful of conditions. It doesn't have this many. And then actions, SharePoint has a good bit of actions, but it's a totally different animal. So, so what I'm doing here is you click on an action and that puts it in your little design view down here at the bottom. And Joelle, you and I actually sat down in the K2 booth at SPC last time, and they showed us a demo of some of this stuff. And you remember kind of us looking at each other going, wow, that's awesome, but it is a little overwhelming. But it's very exciting to me if this was a tool that I was using every day, I would be in heaven, because this would give me everything I need to create business solutions, and the kind of business solutions that come across our desks, the kind of things that people want to do in SharePoint. This would be a totally good tool to be able to build those out, because a lot of the times when they say, oh, well, we want to tap into this or that database and we want this to go here or this to go to this other system, we always say, oh, well, hey, that's a developer thing. We can't really do that, or we have to get all this extra stuff to do that. You can just create a smart object in K2. So that gives you a lot more tools to be able to do no-code stuff. All right, so what I was doing in my instructions here was when somebody clicks this button, if it passes validation, so this is an extra thing that you have to say, like it's not automatically going to know that the form needs to be validated when somebody clicks a button. So this is a condition I had to add into this sort of little rule workflow thing. So I had to say this, this, and this, and this are required. So if it passes validation, those things are filled out, then what's it going to do? It's going to confirm the resubmit. It's going to pop up and say, are you sure? Then it's going to update the item. So you have to say, for that item in SharePoint, do the update, like update the data that's in that list item. And this is actually something you configure, and you say, what exactly am I updating? And you determine what, these are the values that I'm updating. This little context browser to me is, again, it's got a lot of things you can do and a lot of things you can pick from, but to me it's a little overwhelming because I never know kind of where to drill down into to find, like here, this looks like these are my fields, but then these are my fields also, so kind of what's the difference in which one I need to pick here? You know what I mean? So that's, to me, the context browser it has always been one of the most sort of overwhelming things in K2 because there are just so many things in here. But so this is where I pick, I map what things are going to be updated in this update action. And then I've got create. So if somebody was editing this item in SharePoint and they added any items to that little sub list, I actually have to go execute the create method to go actually add those to that smart object, which is that SQL database. So these are the input properties. Those are the items in the smart object, which are actually fields. These aren't fields I created. These are fields that exist over in their database. And then I had to map which fields on my form go to the fields in the database. And then I say go ahead and save it, and then if anybody deleted a row, go ahead and delete those from the database as well. Then show a message to the user. So then the message I want to show to the user is, let's see, that's where I kind of left off here. All right, so show message to the user. And then I can say your expense for claim blah, 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 and I can put the name of it in here. So I need to go down to edit expense claim, to controls, and title text box. So I need to say that title of that claim has been resubmitted for approval. So if somebody changes something basically in this system, it's going to be, make it go through approval all over again. You guys let me know if anybody has questions in the chat window since I don't have it showing me right now. And then close the browser window. Have that done. And then, so that's what it did when it closed the browser window when I was finished. Now I need to set up a rule execution so the data change operations happen as a single batch action. So in the rule action section, I need to select then edit expense claim view right here, and I need to change the then into also. So that is going to make things happen in a batch all at the same time. So that would be the same thing as like some parallel actions in a SharePoint workflow. So I have a feeling that when I get to K2 workflows, which I didn't even turn on workflows for this list, that it's going to look either just like this or very similar. So so then I change it to also, and then select then on expense claim items edit list view, change that one to also, and then let's see what it's supposed to look like. Also, save it, so it's going to do all this stuff at the same time. Also save it, and then also, that just makes it a little faster, I think. It's just all this stuff happens at the same time, and then finish. All right, check in all the forms and views in the application. So when I go finish here, it's going to take me back to SharePoint. And then I'll just go ahead. I could have checked it in from that other interface, but I'll go ahead and just check it in here. And then let's see. And then it even gives you the ability to choose edit expense claim, run with parameters. So I can test this. So this is a testing ability. So this is really neat. So I can choose run with parameters, and then I can say ID, and I can just type a value of 1 in here. And then I can click run. So this is awesome. You don't have this anywhere in SharePoint or InfoPath. I mean, InfoPath kind of gives you the ability to do a preview, but this is actual testing. So this is actually running a command, like running the expense. So this is showing me my test item, and then it looks like down here at the bottom I didn't do the query part yet, so that it shows you, the right items when you're clicking to edit them. So I'll go ahead and close that. Let's see. Resubmit, close form. Okay, so it opened it in another window. All right. And then I've got, so that was just part 3. So here's, looks like I've got a couple more hours to go. So part 3 was forms. And that was the forms part that looks like I still have a few things left to do in there to make the edit thing show the correct items, because I could have done something wrong in a step above. And then I've got the workflow, and then I've got the reports, and then I can do testing. So the workflow is going to be, I love the way these instructions work, by the way. They have a step for each step. It gives you like high-level steps here. So these are just 4 high-level steps. But if I'm not, if I don't feel like I understand how I'm supposed to be doing those high-level steps, it has a walkthrough. So that way, it's not giving me baby steps for every single thing. It's giving me the opportunity to learn. So I'm learning by doing these high-level steps. And then if I'm like, wait, I'm not sure if I did that right, then I can go through the walkthrough and go see, oh, this one specific thing here, I didn't click it, or I was supposed to do this way. So isn't that neat, a way of learning that? So it's got a lot of steps here. And then I'm going to go through reports. And then with the reports, it's going to have me creating a list view and basically create a way to do reporting controls, which I don't even know what that means yet. So awesome stuff. Any other final, I know this is probably overwhelming, but any other final things that you guys think that I didn't address or that would be good to point out in here? You know what? One quick thing. I'll show you just a super basic one that I did a workflow on. I did a super basic workflow on just a list called K2 test with just a title. And I'll show you what that looks like, because their workflow gives you the ability to like assign tasks to people and be able to they have a little web part that you put on the homepage that shows people the tasks that are assigned to them from running workflows.
We have a question.
Okay, let's see. Carlos says, does it allow you to display the fields of an item over 2 or more lines or rows per record for a list view? Yes, it does. So it lets me insert a table onto my form, and it lets me just go place the fields wherever I want to in the table. At least that's what it does appear that it can do that. I didn't really try to do that, but it looks like that was possible. But definitely that whole master and child record thing is definitely, they have a lot of the ability to do that in here. All right, so I have a workflow that I called test. Let's see, I'll go back to my home page on my site and see if it assigned me, I think it was supposed to just assign me a task as soon as I created a new item in that list. Oh, another thing that their workflows do that's awesome is the lazy approval. So like you get an email saying you have a task assigned to you and do you want to approve it or reject it or complete it or whatever, and you just type a response in email and respond to it, and it completes the task for you and moves on. So that's one of those things that people ask for all the time, that these third-party workflow products like K2 and Nintex both do that. All right, I guess I'll have to wrap it up. I know I could probably go for hours and hours more talking about K2, but this is a great app if you guys are looking for, moving from, custom forms you were doing in InfoPath to something else. It's definitely something to look into. They gave me, let's see, you guys are probably wondering about cost. They sent me a link. I have to go find that real quick so I can share that with you guys. I'm going to go ahead and put a link to the Appit website here in the showcase thing here on the Google. Put that in here, and then I'll go ahead and go get that link to the pricing that they sent me. So, oh yeah, it's just K2 Appit. It's Appit/pricing, so I'll go ahead and just put that in here too. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, and next week we'll do Nintex forms, and those links are now shared in the little showcase app there. And let me stop sharing for a minute. All right, so thanks everybody for coming to SharePoint Power Hour, again every Wednesday at 11 Central, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.